At the gym with the boy, Big Robert Kumar. What's up everyone? I'm about to finish my 8th week of NP school and I'm not gonna lie, it is friggin' hard. Talk about exams, quizzes, assignments, every single weekend, day in, day out. I find myself going straight home from work, doing assignment after assignment, staying up late, not getting any sleep, going to work the following morning, and it's just rinse and repeat. It's becoming a pattern. I know what I got myself into when, especially for me to start off a new job as well in the ICU, to combine that with school, it's getting very overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie. And next week, I'm actually gonna be starting my first shift as a FNP preceptorship. So it's gonna be very challenging combining that, combining my new job position, especially with orientation about to come to an end soon. I'm starting night shift in 2 weeks. So this is completely new to me and I need to get myself back into that groove so I can figure out how to do this, and I'm just gonna keep grinding and see where this goes. So one of the first tasks I need to do tonight is a research problem and purpose practice assignment. And I'm reading this right now. It says the purpose of this assignment is to formulate a research problem statement, a purpose statement, and 2 to 3 research questions directed at answering the clinical problem found in the case. So looks like I need to read this article and I'm just gonna take a quick glimpse at it. Oh, what do you know? It's about burnout and compassion fatigue. How relevant. You know, this is something that I'm definitely going through right now in at the hospital setting, especially in the ICU. Compassion fatigue is something that's very serious and it is in fact real. So compassion fatigue is something that's brought on from continuous exposure to patient suffering, high stress environments, and continuous giving of self. And this is something that a lot of nurses, they go through, especially in the ICU, where you're taking care of patients that are in very critical condition, that are on the verge of dying. And it's up to you as the registered nurse to keep them alive with medications to increase their blood pressures, antibiotics to get rid of any possible infections, and intubation to help keep them breathing until you're able to find a solution to the current problem at hand. Burnout is also something that's indeed real that a lot of nurses go through, especially with, you know, working long hours, overtime shifts. People are just tired. So it's very important that you make time for that self-care. You make time for yourself, because if you continue to, you know, work this long path of just being stressed and tired, you're just not going to be happy when you show up to work. And it's very important that you put yourself first. So in fact, for me, I like to go to the gym. I like to go on hikes. I like to hang out with friends. That is what I do to de-stress, and I need to continuously do that, especially throughout this semester and the future semesters beyond of nursing school, because if I don't do that, I'm just going to be stressed out to the max. Alright, so I'm going to take a crack at this assignment. I'm just going to go ahead and read the article through and through and come up with these questions and answers that I need to do to accomplish the assignment. So let's get it. Alright, and that's about it. So it took me about an hour and a half to get this assignment done, but basically I analyzed the whole article, and as the topic suggested, it was about burnout and compassion fatigue, and the challenge was I needed to make a problem statement. And according to my book, 3 essentials of a research problem statement start off with number 1, a summary of what is known about the phenomenon of interest, ending with the research gap. 2, justification for the importance of addressing this knowledge gap, the significant statement, and last but not least, the population of interest and sometimes the setting. So when I looked at this topic at hand, I applied the fact that this is very relevant, especially in real life. With COVID-19, there's a lot of stress, especially when taking care of COVID-positive patients. You're taking people on the verge of dying, especially those that are intubated if you're a critical care nurse like myself. And it's very difficult, and it's also something that we just have to, come in terms with, and also, being able to just understand that these patients are here, they're in critical shape, and it's up to us to help save them, along with the physicians that work with us as well. So the research gap that I pointed out was the fact that there's a lack of objective data. When I looked at a lot of articles surrounding this topic of burnout, you see a lot of topics regarding subjective data, how people feel, how nurses feel when it comes to, working these long hours, being put in stressful situations, but there's also a lack of objective data, stuff that you can quantify. So that was the research gap that I put into my paper that I'm planning on doing. And then for my purpose, I made a statement saying that the purpose of this research is to investigate the negative effects of burnout and compassion fatigue on nursing performance, because I feel like that's something that's quantifiable. We can relate that, stress and burnout is something that's very serious. That's a problem that here in the nursing society. And it's also something that can also eventually lead to mistakes in the hospital, medical mistakes, as well as your performance and your quality of care. So that's what I wanted to focus this research problem and purpose assignment on. And then for my question, these are questions that you have to write to be able to measure that your research purpose or statement. So I came up with 3 questions. Number 1 was, does burnout and compassion fatigue have a correlation with increased medical errors at an acute care setting? Number 2, does the rise in burnout and compassion fatigue lead to a high nurse turnover ratio in an acute care setting? And last but not least, do critical care nurses openly report feeling burnout and compassion fatigue to hospital administration? And what's being done right now to address these problems? Because, a lot of people, they don't admit that they're fatigued, that they're tired. Some people, they just go into work, they're tired and exhausted, but they don't readily admit it, maybe out of fear of retaliation. So it's very important that you don't take it as a fear of retaliation. You need to speak up now and be able to speak up and express yourself, because if you don't, how are any of these problems and issues going to be addressed in the long run? So that's what I wanted to focus my assignment on. And I finished it within an hour and a half, and I'm proud to go ahead and submit it right now. That's basically kind of my thought process when I go through a big research assignment. And this assignment's really good because it's going to help prepare me for an upcoming final paper. So in December, I have to write an entire research paper, and I have to come up with the research topic on my own. So unlike this assignment where the topic of burnout and compassion fatigue was picked out for me, I have to come up with my own topic, come up with a research problem and statement, research questions. It's going to be super fun. I'm going to start looking at articles, start thinking of ideas, because I do have a lot of time to put into this, and hope I can be able to submit an assignment that I'm very proud of, that I put a lot of time and effort into. All right, enough with homework. I need to take a break. I wanted to, just talk to you guys about, just life, what's going on. So, as I told you earlier in the video, I am starting my clinical preceptorship next week. And starting on next week, Friday, it's going to be a big challenge for me, because within a time span of, beginning November to middle December, I'm challenged with obtaining 48 clinical hours with a preceptor, with a family nurse practitioner. And so the challenge is I have to somehow balance that and also balance work. And as you know, I am working full-time at the hospital, so I'm responsible for working for 3 12-hour shifts. So somehow I need to manage working those 3 and also adding 1 or 2 preceptorship days with my clinical preceptor. So I'm thinking maybe I have to work at the beginning of the week and try to leave the rest of the week, available for preceptorship, or go opposite. Maybe spend the first couple of days doing preceptorship and then working. Whatever it is, I just have to be able to communicate this with my managers that, I need to have some time that I can really do both, or else it's going to be very difficult in the long run. So that's something that's been stressing me over those last couple of weeks, just thinking about, how I'm going to manage balancing the two. And for the next semesters to follow, it's only going to get, very harder and harder. Rather than being responsible for 48 hours, I'm responsible for doing 180 hours. 180 hours the following semester, following peds, following maternity, following different elements. So just please pray for me that I'm able to, somehow be able to, handle all of this stressful load, and I'll be able to succeed. Because if I can, just toughen up, if I'm able to stay strong, I'm going to be able to become an NP by next year. I'm going to graduate next year. Can you believe that? In 1 whole year, it's only going to take me to become a nurse practitioner. Well, maybe not just a year. I have to of course, you know, graduate first, then pass the boards, but it's gonna be very fast paced. So if I'm able to just put my heart and soul into this and put my time and just keep grinding and grinding, I know for a fact I'm gonna be able to succeed. Something else I wanted to talk about and address too, and I'm gonna end this video on this final point here, is that if you're not, you know, up to date about what's going on with the government, you know, besides the whole election, it was an article that recently came out talking about making it mandatory for patients and patients' family members to be able to access their own medical records readily, quickly. So starting November 2nd, all documentation that you're going to see in the hospital, that you're going to see in clinics, it's going to be made readily available as long as people ask for it. And this is something that I addressed on my Instagram last week. I put a poll saying if this was a good idea or not. And you know, I got, you know, 50-50 responses, and I can also think of what are the pros and cons. You know, the pros are you have access to your own data. You know, if you're, especially if it's your loved one, you want to be able to have the right to know what's going on. You know, what are these doctors saying? What are their test results? What are these diagnostics saying about them? So I can have access to it. You know, everything should be transparent. And so if you get into the idea of medical transparency, whether or not it's a good or bad thing, it does have its pros and cons. Like I said, the pros is you have access to it readily. But the cons is, let's say maybe if a family member, you know, goes into their medical records, if they see like a result, but they don't understand the medical terminology, it's gonna really scare them. So it's very important that try to avoid medical jargon as much as possible, put it in a clear and concise way. And it just emphasizes the importance of documentation. This week, during my huddle meetings, my charge nurse was very adamant about talking about the importance of documentation. Everything that you do in the hospital, every little thing from, you know, when you talk to the patient, when you talk to a patient's family member, whatever whatsoever. So you need to be able to document everything that you do. And the preferable is you document a narrative note. A narrative note is something that, you know, you go from beginning to end. What exactly happened? What did the patient say? Especially if it's a conflict that's going to eventually follow you in court in the long run. What I'm just trying to say, guys, is that be on top of documentation and don't take it for granted. I know in nursing school they tell you about the importance of charting and documentation. That's not going to ever change, especially when you're a nurse and you're practicing as a professional. Whether you're a nurse, you're a physical therapist, occupational therapist, a doctor, documentation transcends everything. And then at the end of the day, it's the only thing that's going to save your license. Alright, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this channel, smash that like button. If you have any questions or any topics that you want to see in future episodes, please do so in the comment section below. Or if you want to private message me on Instagram, please do so at cmoneyrn. I appreciate your love and support, and I'll see you guys next week.